Welcome, Paul, to Metalladium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Gloryhammer, this new album, Return of the King of Fifth. So, and more things related to the metal world. So we're starting with a common question. Well, how has the band been during these last 4 years? Because your last album, Legends of the Beyond the Galactic Terror Vortex, was released in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's been difficult times, there's been a pandemic, there's been lineup changes, but now we kind of come out the other end of it, and we're probably feeling the best we ever have. So yeah, I think we're feeling more positive than ever, and we're just excited now that finally this new album's out and we can start touring and playing the new songs off it as well.
Great. So, can we say that this Return of the King of Fifth was released was composed and written during the pandemic, or perhaps was during the last sessions of the previous album?
It was mainly written kind of towards the end of the pandemic, because the pandemic really, it killed a lot of our inspiration, because all the live music had gone. We weren't playing any shows. Everyone was kind of sat at home. People had to get day jobs and all of this kind of thing. But then really, as we were coming out of the pandemic, we were kind of thinking, we really need to put some new material together, and then with the addition of Sozos, our new singer, it kind of supercharged everything then. So really, a lot of the songs were initially written over the pandemic, like half written or ideas and this kind of thing. But then everything was really finalized, I guess, towards the beginning of last year, or like the end of the previous year. And then right up to the actual recording of the album as well. Like it seems to be a tradition now. We're still writing the last long song that we like to do like weeks before we go into the studio, just because we don't plan it that way, but it always comes down to that, because we want to make everything as spectacular and over the top as we possibly can. So we use every last second right up to going into the studio and actually committing it all to a recording.
Okay. Well, with this year, the band they celebrated 13 years old, because the band was created in 2010. Now you have 4 albums in your career. So for you, how was during the last 13 years in the band, with 4 albums, the expectations, the people talking about the subject of the music of the Gloryhammer. So how do you see this aspect of the music in general?
I mean, it's amazing that much time has gone by, really. It still seems to me like I still remember the first show we played was in a little place in the Netherlands called Tilburg, playing our first show, which was sold out incredibly. To only a small show, of course, but going from that to playing Wacken Festival and all this kind of thing is crazy to think about. I'm still kind of like just amazed that we can have this kind of audience while playing music like we do, power metal, or it's traditionally not been a mass appeal kind of music. But no, for me, it's been great. It's what I want to do, and now the pandemic's over and everything, we can fully kind of commit to it again, and see that this is how we're gonna continue, and now we finally released this new album, so it's finally, our plans are coming to fruition at last.
Great. And other aspects about the career of the the career of Gloryhammer is that since your Tales from the Kingdom of Fifth, you are with Naples Records, a huge labor into the metal work, a great accomplishment for the band. So how did you deal at the beginning with this notice that you are releasing your first album, the Naples Records? Now 13 years later, well, 10 years later for the first album, you are releasing, I think, the second part for this first album, because this is Return of the Kingdom of Fife. You are returning to the first one.
Yeah, I mean, it's the story is very confusing and complicated, but like all the stuff that happened in between happened in like different dimensions and time zones and things. So yeah, it chronologically it follows directly on from our first album, but the story still runs through the previous two albums and then kind of loops back to this album. But yeah, I mean, Napalm Records have always been good to us, and you know, we were lucky to have the connection with Chris Bowes originally, because of course Ailstorm was signed to Napalm Records. So they seem like the obvious label to go with, and we've been with them ever since. So that seems to be how it's continuing at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how do you describe this Return of the Kingdom of Fife compared to the, for the, I think the first part, Tales of the Kingdom of Fife, because it's very related by the name, and also what are the biggest strengths that this new album has compared to the first album and the previous one, the Legends of the Beyond the Galactic Terror Vortex? Well, huge name.
It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Like most of our stuff, actually. Yeah, I mean, we tried to incorporate a few thematic similarities, like the opening track, the first single. Actually, no, it was the second single we put out. The Holy Hammer of Unholy Cosmic Frost. That one, Holy Flaming Hammer, even. That begins in a very straightforward kind of typical power metal style, you know. Which is very much that sort of medieval style that we had of the first album. But then it doesn't take long for it to take a bit of a turn, and then we start incorporating more of the styles from the later albums, you know, the sci-fi elements, the more electronic synth-based elements together as well. So I guess it's more of a mixture of everything we've done in the past, plus lots more ambitious stuff on top. I mean, the arrangements for this new album are the most complex things we've ever done. Just the songs themselves, you know, we seem to have a habit of not wanting to stay in the same key for more than one verse, and then it'll change to a different key, and this kind of thing. So it's whereas the songs on the first album were a lot more simplistic, you know. They're a lot more straightforward, just catchy power metal songs, which we still want at the core of the music. You know, at the core of every Gloryhammer song, there is, you know, a catchy chorus. Hopefully, that's what we normally start with, and then work out from there. But you might have seen on our Instagram page today, we showed like the choirs that we used on this album. We've never had that before, a full choir on the recording. In the past, we've just maybe had some friends come along and record some vocals, or we've done it ourselves. Whereas this album just has more of everything. It's got more of us singing on it, way more vocal harmonies than we've ever done before. Just the biggest thing we've ever done, hopefully.
Okay. When talking about one of the lyrics aspect of this new album, it's totally related with the Fife, the Kingdom of Fife, because we are returning now when Tales was in the first part, and so we will find the I think one of the main characters, Angus McFire, is still there in the lyrics now, and we're returning, and what's trying to, well, perhaps this is a conceptual album again.
Yeah, no, it all follows a concept. But the Angus McFife in the first album, he is the father of the Angus McFife in this new album from halfway through track 1 or track 2. The track, this is how confusing it all is, you see. The track 1 starts with the original Angus, who, spoiler alert, dies. But then the rest of the album is based a few years later with his heir Angus MacFife II, and then his adventures and battles with the evil wizard Zargothrax, and so on throughout the album.
One thing that is impossible not to ask is about the lyrics of the band Gloryhammer, because if we talk about the music, it's like influenced by Rhapsody, great legends from the old stuff, in the beginnings and the end of the 90s, the beginning of 2000s. But the main focus is the concept of the lyrics, science fictions, epic tales, but outside of the world. I saw that this world is very beyond this world. So who came with the idea to talk about to mix the symphonic power metal with the galactic stories and tales?
I think a lot of it comes back to there's a band called Bal Sagoth. I don't know if you're that familiar with them. They were a British band from the 90s, doing, I don't know how you describe it, like symphonic black metal maybe, but with like a lot of power metal elements as well. But they had a huge overarching concept, which has been the inspiration for a lot of Gloryhammer's lyrics, where it is this kind of mix of medieval fantasy-ish imagery, along with very kind of high concept sci-fi ideas as well. And we just thought it would be a bit more of a unique thing by our second album, rather than to just basically copy what Rhapsody have already done. We wanted to kind of take it a step further and do our own thing. So rather than just unicorns, we decided unicorns in space. Why not? And that's been the continuation ever since.
Okay. And what do you usually when you saw black death metal bands, extreme metal bands, always the members of the lineup are put. They have nicknames, no? Like Hammer Beast, like Darkness of the Woods, etc. And the curious thing about this is that in your lineup always you had that kind of nicknames, because your name is Ser Politius, Grand Master of the Death Knights of Grail. Like Grail came from the first album. So who came with the idea to maintain this aspect in the presentation of the members of the Gloryhammer lineup?
I guess Chris would take credit for that. It was pretty much his idea, and so some of them are ideas that he had for years before we actually put the band together. I think originally Sir Proletius was the name of one of his guinea pigs, I think. Originally, it might have been a hamster. I'm not sure which. And then like the Hootsman was always a central concept for Gloryhammer. I think Zargothrax might have been one of Chris's pets' names as well. I might be wrong on that one. But yeah, the character names come from him. But they're all integral to the story. So like my character changes album to album. It's always Sir Proletius, but a different form of Sir Proletius. So you've got like the OG Sir Proletius in the first album. In the second album, it's the OG Sir Proletius, but a hologram, because it's 1,000 years in the future. So it's a hologram of that character. Then the last one you mentioned, Grandmaster of the Death Knights of Krail, that is the alternate dimension, evil Sir Proletius, from the concept of the last album, after being stabbed with the knife of evil. And then this album now is a continuation of the original Sir Proletius, but the whole Kingdom of Fife has been destroyed in a nuclear war, and now he's sort of the head of like a monastery-esque type order, like an order of monks almost. But like monks of war, I think is the idea. But yeah, we're getting into deep lore now. But yeah, that's just a very brief explanation of just my character. All the other characters have equally ridiculous backstories.
Okay, well, interesting to know. Interesting to know. So we're talking about from the promotion of this new album. What are the future plans that the band has, well, to this promote this new album? Perhaps you will do more videos upcoming. Perhaps you will embark in a European on a newer European tour. Perhaps you, for by the end of it, or who knows, you will came to US or perhaps to Latin America in general, to Mexico, Brazil, Argentina. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, those are all places we'd love to go. We'd never been to South America before, so that seems like an obvious one that we'd love to go to. It's just a matter of finding the promoters and the organization to do it, you know. We just announced a European tour with it's going to be a double headline tour with Beast in Black, who we toured with back in, when was that, 2019? I think we did a UK tour with them back then. So we're getting together again to do a European tour together, and that'll be early next year, January into February of next year. Then I guess we have other things that we haven't announced yet, but that's not all. There will be more as well. But yeah, obviously we've got a new album out, so the thing you do with a new album is you go around playing the new songs to people. So hopefully we'll be able to go to more places than ever, and yeah, hopefully South America and new places that we haven't been to, and places that we haven't been to in a long time as well.
Okay. Well, talking about one aspect about the lyrics again is that that you dedicate to the fans, fantasy, science fictions, epic tales, this kind of stuff. But at the same time, did you ever think in some way to create like a comic about your histories, about the histories of Gloryhammer preaching all albums, or perhaps a different, or continue the history of the kingdom of FIFA with the whole family, or FIFA royalty family? Who knows? Perhaps you think about to create a comic book. This a comic book because now we are in expect of the revival like the DCM comics, Marvel comics, etc. Perhaps do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean it's something that's come up many times. I mean, if there's anyone out there that's producing this kind of stuff, then they're always welcome to approach us and work with us on it. But it's never something that's actually come to fruition yet. The closest thing we've done now is the video for Keeper of the Celestial Flame, which is all done in like anime animation style, and that's gone down very well. So we'll see what we might be able to produce in the future.
Okay, cool. Other aspects, well, other aspects is than the one, as you told me in the first question. One, always all people know that at the beginning of the beginning of the pandemic, no shows appear, no festivals, no nothing. So that's normal. But the bands find a way to play live with the streaming shows, more connected to the social media, again, more things. And with this aspect, the artificial intelligence at that time was a great help for all bands around the world. So now, with this issue, as you can see the news, you can see that the artificial intelligence is more present into the arts, creating cover arts, creating music, emulate voices like Jim Morrison can sings Metallica songs, for example. This kind of stuff, this amazing kind of stuff. Well, sometimes it's very fear about this about this aspect. So, for what's your opinion about the, well, I don't know if we will call issue, but what is your opinion about the when like the science fiction takes the opportunity to be a real life?
Yeah, I mean it's something that's very interesting, especially to us because we're interested in this kind of thing anyway. But yeah, it's got to be approached with a little bit of trepidation, a little bit of caution as well. But I don't think a machine can ever really fully replace art that's created by a human. It can get close, and what it can do very well is lay down the foundations or serve as like an inspiration tool. Because one funny example actually is for the promo photos for this album, the photos of us that you see inside the booklet. Our singer had put some photos of us into an AI image generator, and then put in some suggestions for like poses, and then it would just kind of generate new poses for us to try for the photos. So in that sense, it was very useful. But ultimately, it wasn't producing the end result. It was just an aid to help create something that was ultimately created by us. But yeah, it seems to be on a very rapid expansion at the moment. I'm seeing it more and more. And I guess it needs to be regulated properly. Otherwise, who knows? We could all end up being in the Matrix and being ruled by machines and this kind of thing. I can actually see that as a plausible possibility at this point.
Yeah, yeah. But talking about now the power metal in general, as you can see now, all the styles in the world has revivals. The thrash metal, the heavy metal, the death metal, black metal. But I think the one, even I think just the extreme metal are continuously experimenting with new sounds, with a lot of past. But the power metal, thrash metal, and heavy metal stick to the past. It's not a different way to create it. Well, I don't know. It's perhaps the new bands are creating. Well, Gloryhammer has a lot of influence from Rhapsody, as we'll note about it. So, what is your opinion about now the extreme music into the metal are doing a lot of experimentation with the metal, but the classic stuff with the power metal, heavy metal, thrash metal are stagnated with the old influence and doing the things like this, like the Halloween, Rhapsody, Metallica, Slayer, etc., etc.
I lately I've seen a bit of a new generation coming through with I guess you describe it as power metal, but it's kind of more far reaching than that. But it's got more of a direction that has mass appeal, I suppose. It's got these big. I mean, power metal's always had big catchy choruses, but it's got more of like almost like a pop music approach, you know. There's a lot of bands doing this now, and that's kind of brought this style of melodic metal, if you can kind of group it all in that way, to be a bit more prominent. But you say it sticks to the past, but I think the reason for that is like what we consider like the golden age of power metal, you know, when bands like Rhapsody or like Sinatra Arctica with their first few albums, or Stratovarius, were releasing, you know, what was now considered their sort of legendary material. It was like the least cool thing you could possibly be doing. And it was only really the underground fans that were listening to it. And you never saw it, at least in the UK or most of Europe. You didn't really see it on any mainstream media. It wasn't even covered that much in metal media. Throughout the 90s, you know, metal media was kind of focused more on the more extreme stuff, or bands like Pantera or this kind of thing. You know, you didn't really read much about Rhapsody in like 1999. So I guess now finally power metal's kind of having its chance to enjoy the spotlights a little bit. It kind of already happened with you know, bands like Dragon Force in the mid 2000s, Guitar Hero, all that sort of thing. But that's kind of inspired this new generation now of bands to come forward and try and emulate that. But no, you're right. I think things kind of move in cycles a little bit, and what's cool now will not be cool in 10 years, and so on and so on. But it's just how it is, and as long as there's an audience for the kind of music we do, then we'll continue making what we do.
Well, yeah, well, that is true. And the other hand, or other side of the coin, well, a lot of bands are stick with the old influence. But now, as you can see, a lot of bands like especially from Japan, Japanese bands, are mixing the power metal when like Stratovarius, Halloween, the great stuff, with pop elements. So what's your opinion about now the power metal find a way in Japan to mix with pop elements, especially with the kawaii elements?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I mean, I'm not a elitist in any way. I'm not a gatekeeper with metal. I think any music, as long as it's done with conviction and passion, then it's good, you know. And yeah, if that's what they want to do, and it's got an audience, then great. I can't say I'm that aware of a lot of it. Like I know bands like Baby Metal, very popular. And I mean, some of the musicians in that band, like the guitar players and the drummer, they're insane. They're
Yes.
incredible technical musicians. They're as good as any like tech death metal musician
Yes,
you
or even
use.
much better than them.
Yeah, yeah, and but they're playing, you know, music to a much wider fan base, and why not? So yeah, no, good luck to them.
Okay, okay. Well, Paul, the sad times arrive at this interview. Love your last album. Congratulations on that one.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to talk with you. You are a terrific guy. Perhaps do you want to add something to your Latin American fans that expect someday a full tour here in Latin America and Metalino followers?
Yeah, I mean, South America is somewhere we've always wanted to come, and hopefully we will very, very soon. So yeah, just shout out to everyone in South America, and I really hope we can come and play some shows for you soon.